Everyone talks with their hands throughout a conversation at some point. If your audience cannot see your hands while you're giving a speech, they're going to think that you aren't being truthful with them, according to Dr. Susan Weinschenk. Throughout this speech, we're going to discuss how face-to-face communication, hand gestures, and texting is used in interpersonal communication. Face-to-face communication is something that us as human beings need to have. We are social creatures by nature. According to Ronald Reagan, a lot of the problems in the world would disappear if we would talk to one another instead of about one another. When we are discussing with each other, we are so involved in what's going on in the world instead of what's going on with you or what's going on with me. We're not having a conversation with one another, we're talking at one another. Society has evolved into something that doesn't know how to communicate face-to-face with one another. You tell them something, they don't respond, they tell you something else. That's not how conversations go. Conversations need to be asking them a question, them responding, saying, how was your day? My day was great, how was yours? Instead, we now use social medias and texting to communicate instead of face-to-face communication. While doing this face-to-face communication, if we are able to, we use hand gestures. Hand gestures are a unified language. You can talk to somebody from Africa and China, and they use hand gestures to be able to get communicated with one another what they want to say. A simple wave means hello in every language. Hand gestures are used by most people at some point during any conversation. This could mean just talking with your hands and just putting emphasis on something you're saying, or folding your hands because you're nervous, or putting them behind your back because you don't want to be talking to the person that you're talking to. There's many different hand gestures that people don't necessarily understand that they're giving. The hand gestures, and not only hand gestures but body gestures as well, are given off during communication. These aren't something that you're just saying, okay, I'm going to put my body this way and you're going to understand me. Your body goes the way that you're feeling. And that's why hand gestures, when you are showing them during your speeches, and if you're talking to somebody, they're going to believe you and believe that you're telling them the truth more if you're showing them your hand gestures than if you're hiding them from you. Hand gestures are even used in texting nowadays. 85% of young adults use texting as communications with one another instead of face-to-face communication. This texting is picking up a phone, sending a couple of words to another person, and they send it back. How do you know what they mean by what they say? There's no emphasis. There's no emotion. Now we have emojis, which they could be used as hand gestures in a way, because there's smiley face emojis, there's hearts emojis, there's okay emojis, there's thumbs up emojis. So that makes it a little bit better. But with this texting, we do not communicate with one another face to face any longer. It is easier for someone to pick up the phone and send a simple text message to somebody that they're going to get within 2 seconds than it is for them to go over and have a conversation with them. But in the long run, what is that going to do to society? Especially since we as humans are such a social creature. People talk to one another face to face every day, whether you're going to the bank or you're going to the grocery store. You're talking to someone face to face. Whether you're having a conversation with them or not, that's up to you. The use of hand gestures is something any person, whether their ethnicity or their language, can understand. Texting is the new way for people to communicate with one another, and we need to pay attention to how much we're relying on this texting to be able to get along and to talk to somebody. Yes, it's quick. Yes, we're able to do it. But what's the position behind it? Does somebody see that you're actually caring enough to ask how their day is, or is it they're bugging me, so I'll ask them how their day is going? You don't know, because that does not have the emphasis behind it that it would if you were face to face with one another. Interpersonal communication is not something that we can get away from, but there are different ways that we can communicate with one another.